Humans were known throughout the galaxy as the peaceful ones. They built magnificent cities on barren worlds. They healed the sick with medicines they shared freely. They helped anyone who asked, asking nothing in return. They forgave easily and never held grudges. Other species appreciated this. They also took advantage of it. Alien traders charged humans double for parts, claiming it was the standard price. Humans paid, smiled, and left. Alien politicians ignored human concerns during council meetings, moving on to other business without discussion. Humans waited patiently, hoping for their turn. Alien bullies pushed humans in spaceports, took their places in lines, mocked their technology. Humans stepped aside, apologized for being in the way, and found another line. Across the galaxy, a reputation grew. Humans were harmless. You could take from them, insult them, push them as far as you wanted. They would never do anything about it. What the galaxy did not understand was simple. Human patience was not weakness. It was not fear. It was a choice. A conscious decision to forgive, to understand, to give second chances. Humans believed that everyone deserved a chance to be better. They believed that peace was worth preserving. But there was a limit. Every human knew this. They learned it as children, sitting on their parents' knees, listening to old stories. You can forgive many times, parents taught. You can be patient. You can let things go. But there comes a moment when patience becomes permission. When you must stop stepping aside and stand your ground. The galaxy had not yet seen that moment. It was about to. A human colony on the edge of explored space was small and peaceful. Farmers, families, children. They grew food, raised young, lived simple lives. Raiders found them. Not military, not an empire. Just criminals with ships and weapons, looking for easy prey. They stole everything of value. They destroyed what they could not carry. They killed anyone who got in their way. The colony sent out distress calls on every frequency. Help! We are under attack. We have no weapons, no defenses. Please, someone help us. The calls went out across the galaxy. No one responded. The colony was destroyed. Those who survived fled in small ships, carrying nothing but memories. They reached other human worlds and told their stories. The raiders who laughed while they burned. The galaxy that watched and did nothing. The stories spread. On every human world, people listened in silence. They heard about neighbors who died. Children who never grew up. A colony that asked for help and received only silence. The galaxy did not notice. Did not care. On Earth, leaders gathered in secret. They met in a hidden chamber, away from observers, away from listening ears. Generals sat beside scientists. Politicians sat beside engineers. All of them asking the same question. What do we do? For centuries, they had built. They had healed. They had helped. They had believed that kindness would be returned, that peace would be rewarded. Now they knew the truth. Kindness meant nothing to those who saw it as weakness. The vote was close. Many argued for continued peace. We are builders, not fighters. This is not who we are. Others disagreed. We have been builders because we chose to be. That does not mean we cannot be something else. In the end, the decision was made. The forges would awaken. Not for building. For something else. And the galaxy, which had ignored human suffering for so long, would soon learn a lesson it would never forget. The chamber was hidden deep beneath the surface. No windows. No outside connections. Just a large room filled with the most powerful humans in existence. Generals who had never fought a war. Scientists who had built wonders. Politicians who had negotiated peace for decades. They sat in silence, waiting for someone to speak. The images on the screens showed the destroyed colony. Burned buildings. Dead bodies. Survivors with empty eyes. The raiders had been gone for weeks, but their work remained. Finally, the oldest leader present stood. General Marcus Chen had served humanity for 60 years. He had never led troops into battle because there had been no battles to fight. He had spent his career planning for wars that never came. Now he wondered if that was about to change. We have a decision to make, he said quietly. The galaxy ignored our calls for help. They watched our people die and did nothing. The question before us is simple. What do we do now? A scientist spoke. We are builders, not fighters. That has always been our way. We create, we heal, we help. If we become something else, we lose ourselves. Nods around the room. Many agreed. A politician stood. We have been builders because we chose to be. That does not mean we cannot be something else when circumstances demand it. Murmurs of agreement from others. But what would we become? The scientist asked. Warriors? Killers? Is that who we want to be? I do not want to be a killer, the politician replied. But I also do not want to watch more colonies burn while the galaxy does nothing. The debate continued. Back and forth. No clear answer. Then an old woman stood. She was not a general or a scientist or a politician. She was simply a survivor. Her clothes were plain. Her face was lined with grief. Her eyes held a pain that would never fully heal. Everyone recognized her. Her image had been on every news feed since the attack. She had held her daughter as she died. She had watched her husband burned alive. She had fled through smoke and fire while raiders laughed behind her. Now she stood before the leaders of humanity and spoke. They ignored our calls, she said. Her voice was quiet but clear. Everyone listened. We sent message after message. Help us, please help us. We begged. We prayed. We hoped someone would come. She paused. No one came. The galaxy watched us die and did nothing. Tears ran down her face, but her voice did not break. Now I sit here and listen to you debate whether we should become something else. Whether we should fight back. Whether we should change. She looked at each leader in turn. I have one question for you. Is this who we want to be? The ones who forgive and forget while our children are murdered. The ones who keep building for species that would let us burn. No one spoke. Is that who we are? The silence that followed was heavier than any words. Generals looked at the floor. Scientists wiped their eyes. Politicians sat frozen, unable to respond. The old woman sat down. No one followed her. No one needed to. She had said everything that needed to be said. The vote was called. One by one, leaders stood and spoke their choice. Some for peace. Some for change. The tally was close. Painfully close. When the last vote was counted, the room sat in stunned silence. The decision was made. General Chen stood. His voice was steady, but his eyes were sad. Activate the forges, he said quietly. Not for building. For something else. No one cheered. No one celebrated. They simply nodded and began the work. The galaxy had ignored them. Exploited them. Let them die. Now everything would change. The secret had been kept for centuries. While humans built cities and ships and wonders for the galaxy, they also built something else. Something hidden. Something no one thought to look for. In places no senses reached, behind moons that seemed empty, inside asteroids that appeared barren, humans had been preparing. Not for conquest. Humans did not want to rule. For defense. For the day when building was no longer enough. For the moment when kindness was answered with violence and peace was answered with fire. That day had come. Hidden shipyards roared to life. For centuries, they had sat silent, waiting. Now their forges blazed, their assembly lines moved, their workers hurried. But they were not building hospitals or research stations. They were building warships. Massive vessels, dark and angular, covered in weapons. Ships designed not to create, but to protect. Things humans had not made in 1,000 years. In other hidden places, weapons were forged. Rifles that fired with precision. Armor that could stop any known projectile. Tools that had only one purpose: defense. Soldiers began to train. Men and women who had only known peace, who had never held a weapon, who had never thought of themselves as fighters. They learned to stand in formation, to follow orders, to work as one. They learned to fight. It was hard, painful. Their bodies ached. Their minds struggled. Many wanted to quit, but they remembered the images. The burned colony. The dead children. The galaxy that watched and did nothing. They kept training. In the hidden places, they learned to defend. Not because they wanted to. Because they had to. Because the galaxy had shown them that kindness was not enough. Because they knew, deep in their hearts, that the day would come when they would need these skills. Instructors who had never taught combat before learned alongside their students. Generals who had never led troops studied tactics and strategy. Everyone prepared. The transformation was slow, painful, but it happened. Outside, the galaxy noticed nothing. Human ships still traveled the trade routes. Human workers still built cities on alien worlds. Human scientists still shared discoveries freely. They smiled. They helped. They worked. No one saw what was happening in the shadows. No one suspected that beneath the surface, something was changing. The builders were becoming something else. A single message went out to every human world. It traveled on secure channels, hidden from alien senses, invisible to anyone watching. Simple words. Clear meaning. The tools are put down. The weapons are ready. We wait for the moment. The message reached colonies on the edge of explored space. Reached ships drifting between stars. Reached every human who had ever wondered if they would ever need to fight. The responses came back, one by one. We wait with you. From farmers on distant worlds. From scientists in orbital stations. From traders on well-traveled routes. From every human in the galaxy. The same answer. We wait with you. The waiting began. Ships sat in hidden docks, ready to launch. Soldiers trained in secret bases, ready to defend. Weapons waited in armories, ready to protect. All of them waiting. Waiting for the moment when the galaxy would learn the truth. Waiting for the day when the builders would put down their tools and pick up their weapons. Waiting for the signal that would change everything. The galaxy slept on, unaware. But the humans were ready. Another colony was threatened. This time, it was not raiders. Not criminals seeking easy prey. This was an empire. The Korath Empire, conquerors of 100 worlds, demanded surrender or destruction. The colony was small. Farmers, families, children. They had no weapons, no defenses, no army. They had only each other. The Korath fleet surrounded them. Hundreds of ships, dark and powerful, blocking out the stars. Their commander sent a message. Surrender or die. You have 1 hour. The colony sent a distress call. Not to the galaxy. They had learned that lesson. The galaxy did not care about human colonies. The galaxy watched and did nothing. They sent their call to Earth. This is New Hope Colony. Korath fleet surrounds us. They demand surrender or destruction. We have no weapons. No defenses. Please. Help us. They waited. The response came within minutes. Help is coming. Hold on. The Korath commander waited impatiently. The hour was almost up. Soon he would give the order, and another human colony would burn. He had done this before. It was easy. Then his sensor officer screamed. Commander! Ships! Thousands of them. They are everywhere. The commander stared at his screens. Ships were appearing from nowhere. From behind moons. From inside asteroids. From the darkness where no one thought to look. Human warships. Thousands of them. Surrounding his fleet completely. Where did these ships come from? The commander shouted. Humans do not have warships. They are builders. Workers. They have no military. No one had answers. They could only stare at the screens, at the impossible fleet, at their own destruction surrounding them. The human ships were massive. Dark. Covered in weapons. They moved into position with perfect precision, blocking every escape route. The hunters had become the hunted. A human voice came through on all channels. Calm. Cold. Certain. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet. You have threatened human lives. You have 1 minute to withdraw from this system. After that, you will be removed. The commander stared at the screen. A human woman looked back at him, her face expressionless. He laughed. It was a desperate laugh, a nervous laugh, a laugh meant to hide fear. You cannot threaten us, he said. You are builders, not fighters. You have never fought a war. You do not know how to fight. The human did not respond. She simply watched. The minute ticked down. The minute passed. The human fleet moved. They did not fire wildly. They did not destroy randomly. They moved with precision, with purpose, with terrifying efficiency. Within moments, half the Korath ships were disabled. Not destroyed. Disabled. Their weapons went dark. Their engines died. Their communications fell silent. They floated helplessly, unable to fight, unable to flee, unable to do anything but watch. The other half of the fleet sat frozen, waiting for their turn. The commander stared at his screens, unable to speak. His mighty fleet, conquerors of 100 worlds, had been rendered helpless in minutes. By humans. By builders. By the species everyone thought was weak. The human voice returned. That was a demonstration. A warning. The next time, we will not be so gentle. Leave human space. Tell your empire what happened here. Tell them that humans are not prey. The transmission ended. The commander looked at his officers. At their pale faces. At their trembling hands. He finally understood. Humans were never weak. They were patient. They waited. They built. They prepared. And their patience had just ended. The Korath fleet fled. Those that could still move turned and raced away, not stopping until human space was far behind them. Those that could not move were towed by the ones that could. They did not look back. No one wanted to see those ships again. On the colony below, people emerged from shelters, looking up at the sky, at the human warships still hanging there, protecting them, at the impossible fleet that had appeared from nowhere. They cried. They cheered. They held each other. Help had come. The galaxy had ignored them. But Earth had not. The Korath fleet fled. Those that could move turned and raced away, not stopping until human space was far behind them. Those that could not were left behind, their crews captured, their ships salvaged. News spread across the galaxy like fire. The Korath, conquerors of 100 worlds, had been defeated. Not by a fleet, not by an alliance, by humans, the builders, the peaceful ones. Species that had ignored human pleas for help now sat in stunned silence. Species that had cheated human traders now felt cold fear. Species that had laughed at human weakness now remembered every joke, every insult, every theft. They waited for what would come next. Earth sent a single transmission. It was broadcast on every frequency, to every world, every species, every empire. No threats, no anger, just words. 4 centuries, we built. We healed. We helped. We asked only for peace in return. The voice was calm, steady, familiar. You ignored us. You exploited us. You watched our colonies burn and did nothing. A pause. That time is over. The words hung in the air across 1,000 worlds. The tools are put down. The weapons are in our hands. We do not seek war. We do not want conquest. We never have. Another pause. But if you threaten human lives, if you harm human worlds, if you ignore human cries for help, we will respond. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, species stopped. Traders paused in mid-sentence. Politicians froze at their podiums. Soldiers stood motionless at their posts. Ships hung silent in space. No one spoke. No one moved. No one dared breathe. Every empire, every species, every being that had ever taken advantage of humans suddenly understood. They were never weak. They were patient. And their patience had limits. In the silence, memories surfaced. Every human they had cheated, ignored, dismissed. Every colony that had begged for help while they looked away. Every kindness they had taken for weakness. The weight of it pressed down on them. What else had humans been building in secret? What else could they do? What other surprises waited in the darkness? No one knew. And that uncertainty became its own kind of fear. Years passed. The galaxy changed. Humans were treated differently now. With respect. With caution. With understanding. Trade continued, but fairly. Alliances formed, but equally. Humans still built, still healed, still helped. But no one took advantage anymore. On a distant world, a young alien sat with his grandfather, looking at the stars. "Grandfather," the boy asked, "why do we treat humans with such respect now? I have heard stories that they used to be nothing, that anyone could take advantage of them." The grandfather was old. His eyes had seen much. He had been there when the message arrived, when the entire galaxy stood still. "They were never nothing, child." The boy frowned. "What do you mean?" "They were waiting, watching, building. For centuries, they let us think they were weak. They smiled and helped and never complained. We thought that meant we could take from them forever." He paused. "We were wrong. When they finally had enough, the entire galaxy stood still." The boy thought about this. So they were always strong. They just chose not to show it. The grandfather nodded slowly. "Yes. And that is the most frightening kind of strength. The strength that waits. The strength that chooses peace until peace is no longer possible." He looked at the stars. "We will never forget that day. The day Earth had enough." On Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in a garden. She was older now, her hair gray, her face lined with years. But her eyes were still sharp, her mind still clear. Children played nearby, running and laughing in the sun. Their parents watched from benches, smiling. Peaceful. Happy. Safe. A young officer approached. New to the fleet. Full of questions. "Admiral, will we ever have to do that again? Will another empire try to harm us?" Chen looked at the children playing. "I hope not," she said quietly. "We do not want war. We never have. We only want peace." She turned to the officer. "But if we do, they will remember. They will always remember the day Earth had enough. She looked back at the children, and they will never dare breathe again. The officer nodded slowly, understanding. They stood together in silence, watching the children play, listening to their laughter, feeling the peace that had been earned. Somewhere across the galaxy, other species remembered too. They remembered the silence, the stillness, the moment when the builders showed their teeth. And they never forgot, because some lessons, once learned, last forever.